And we are back for episode 200 and something.
252.
So many.
So many episodes, so many movies, so much horror.
And you know what?
What?
Every last one of them is still available at horrorguyspodcast.com.
All right.
Go back and listen to episode 1 and see how things have changed.
Wow.
We did like 2 movies that episode.
Things have evolved.
I think we did 2 movies for the first 10, then we expanded it up to 3.
And for a while we were doing them as a video podcast.
Yeah.
On YouTube, where you could see us doing it, as well as hear the audio.
That was truly scary, watching our talking heads talk.
Well, it was kind of talking from the waist ups, not just talking heads.
Beats the opposite where you're talking at your... Oh, well, anyway.
Yeah.
What do we got this week?
Oh, we got all kinds of new things and some indie things, and we've got 6 movies this week.
We had so many new movies to watch this week, we kind of messed things up. Instead of 4 movies in a short like usual, we did 6 new movies and no short this week.
And 1 bonus movie.
Only 1 bonus because we ended up having,
Well, we got the very new Five Nights at Freddy's, which was a long-awaited making from a video game, a popular video game.
Apparently it's a whole series of video games.
Okay. And also Exorcist Believer.
Believe it or not, there's a whole series of Exorcist movies.
Yes, there is.
Oh, we knew that.
And this is a sequel, I think, where they just kind of pretended some of the other sequels didn't happen.
Yeah.
And also a indie, The Hive, and another indie, Bloodthirst, and another indie, Beyond the Gates of Hell, and another indie, The Wheel of Heaven.
Wow.
And an older classic, It's Alive.
Yeah. We're not going to actually talk about It's Alive here. That one's for the bonus newsletter at horrorbulletin.com. You can go over there and read that if you want. Otherwise, we will cover all those new movies now. Since these are all brand new movies, you may not have seen all of them, so we're not going to spoil them to death the way we do older things.
Yeah, but if you want to see the full spoilery synopsis, it is available on the website.
horrorguys.com or horrorbulletin.com if you want them in your email box.
So here we'll just give you our opinions and some brief statements about it.
All right. Well, probably the most anticipated, most hyped movie, not necessarily by us because we're not gamers, but the biggest horror event of the year probably is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's. From 2023, directed by Emma Tammy, written by Scott Cawthon, Seth Kudibak, and Emma Tammy, stars Josh Hutcherson, Piper Rubio, and Elizabeth Lail. Hour and 50 minutes. Yes, it's almost 2 hours long. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler-free. What happens? Without spoilers entirely, what do we think?
Well, it's a long-awaited adaptation of a video game, like we said, and we were disappointed.
We were.
Yeah. The premise is interesting. Practical effects are very cool. And there are not that many surprises. And there's too much talk and drama. It's decent, but it didn't live up to the hype.
Well, from what I gather...
The cast is good. I like Josh Hutcherson in this role as the main guy. But, yeah, it was just meh.
From what I gather, the video game series is for kids. It's like a child video game. It's not a grown-up video game like Call of Duty or something.
Yeah.
So the movie was aimed more towards introductory horror for kids.
So they kind of kept it tame, or on the tame side anyway.
There's only one brutal bit in the middle there.
There is some brutal bits.
Not terribly so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a boring horror movie and kind of a...
Well, there was too much...
There's too much horror for it to be a drama and too much talking for it to be a horror.
Yeah, too much yakky yak. There were moments where I thought, too much yakky yak. Get on with it. I want more haunted animatronics.
I have not played the games, and neither of you, but I cannot imagine the games being all about his childhood, blah, 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 the way the movie is.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll get this started here. We're not going to spoil anything important. But we watch a security guard frantically trying to open a ventilation tunnel. He crawls in as something bangs on the door behind him. Something is coming up, and it's singing. He soon finds himself strapped into a chair with a whirling, saw-bladed mask-looking thing coming down over his face. Credits roll.
Okay.
That mask torture-looking device thing was never explained.
No,
it shows up again later, but
it does. Yeah.
Why is that there?
I don't know, but it was read out of the Saw movies.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Mike and his little sister Abby get up and get ready for their day. Mike is a security guard at a mall, but he's really awful at it and gets fired.
Yeah, he overreacts and gets himself canned.
According to Steve, his career counselor, he's not very good at anything. Steve does have a high turnover security job for Mike at night, but Mike turns it down. He can't work at night because he takes care of Abby.
His sister.
Well, then Mike dreams of his childhood, when his little brother Garrett was abducted. Mike's Aunt Jane wants custody of Abby, and she contests his custody in the courts. She's a not very nice person. Mike calls Steve's back and accepts the job. It's for to be a security guard at a former kid's place, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, that's been closed for a long time, and all Mike has to do is keep people out.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Well, there's a videotape that explains the history of the place. It's a family-friendly, fun place with cutting-edge animatronic creatures.
Yeah, along the line
just like that one place.
Yeah. Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, you said it. Okay.
Yeah, I said the Chuck E. Cheese
Well,
word.
he sleeps at a desk through most of the night and then goes home. Great security guard.
Well, but there's nothing to do. So, yeah.
Max, who watches Abby at night, actually secretly works for Aunt Jane, who hired her to dig up dirt on Mike. They come up with a plan to break into Freddy's, mess it up, and Mike will be fired.
He'll get the blame.
Yeah. Well, that night, Abby wants to go with Mike, who doesn't allow it. Mike once again dreams about Garrett, but this time other children appear in the dream. When he wakes up, the electronics are going crazy in the place. All the lights are blinking. You know how that goes.
But there's a reset switch.
Yeah.
A main power switch.
And Vanessa is a cop who stops by to see everything is okay. She mentions that this place gets to people, and they never seem to last in the job. She then turns on the animatronic creatures for him. He didn't know how to do that. And they're really something. She also mentions that back in the 80s, a bunch of kids went missing, which is why the place shut down. And in the morning, they both leave. I guess Vanessa the cop has nothing to do but hang around, closed arcades at night.
Well, it's on her route, I guess.
All right, well, as the sun comes up and Mike leaves, Max's boyfriend Jeff and his buddies Hank and Carl break in and start to wreck the place. Carl finds an animatronic creature where it shouldn't be,
and
we should stop there.
We shouldn't spoil further
That's
than that.
right. Bad things happen.
Stuff happens.
All right, well, skipping down to the commentary at the end, this was based on a popular video game that neither of us have experienced at all, but we did see Willy's Wonderland from 2021, which has almost exactly the same premise.
Nick Cage working at night in a shut-down place like this with animatronic creatures that are coming after him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also very similar was the Banana Splits movie from 2019. Again, the same thing.
Same basic premise.
This very popular video game came up with some movies, but it was very slow getting its own movie out.
Yeah, it was.
Mike is the most terrible security guard ever. He spends all night sleeping, using sleeping pills, and with headphones on. He's pretty useless as an adult as well. Aunt Jane is nasty, but he's a terrible parent from Abby. Other than wanting to save Abby, he has no real redeeming qualities here. He sort of kind of comes around in the end, but he's still kind of a sad sack.
But he gets the job done at the end.
You said sad sack. I probably said something worse.
You said something worse. I toned it down. I toned it down because I didn't think he was that bad. I didn't think he was as bad as you thought he was.
Okay, I did not like him.
Yeah, I liked him better than you did.
It's awfully long, and not much really happens until 45 minutes in. Even then, there's far too much drama with Mike and his backstory, and not nearly enough of the good stuff.
Yeah.
The creatures here are surprisingly not CGI. They're actual puppets and physical props.
Yeah, a mix of puppets and people in suits.
Yeah, probably why it took so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This may be the most hyped, heavily advertised horror film this year, but in my opinion at least, we'll see what Kevin's got to say here in a minute, Willy's Wonderland was far better.
Overall, I agree. I was more entertained by Willy's Wonderland than this.
It's been years since Banana Splits, and I don't remember it all that well. But Willy's Wonderland was good.
Actually, of the three, I would put Banana Splits as my third place.
Okay.
Yeah. This one, Freddy's as second, and Willy's Wonderland the first.
Yeah. I mean, Willy's Wonderland was clearly a ripoff of this idea.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a better movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing here, but it's not good. Oh, well, moving on. 2023. These are all 2023 films this time. This one is The Hive. Written and directed by Jared Almond. Stars Timothy Haug, Christy Griffin, and Blake Eli. hour and 26 minutes. Spoiler free, it starts out a little slow and confusing, but things gradually become clearer. Is this a home invasion thriller? No, not quite that simple. It moves briskly, and it's worth the wait. The production values and acting are decent, and overall, it's a thumbs up.
Yeah, I thought so. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I absolutely hate the main character.
Yeah, and I didn't absolutely hate the main character like you did.
Okay.
So we're of a different opinion there.
I didn't like the main character in Freddy's either. I'm just having a harsh week on these people.
You're harshing on the main guys.
Well, I don't think we're supposed to like the main character here because the wife, she harps and nags on him, and she's always right. So
she's kind of harsh though.
You've just taken a half an hour to change this flat tire. I could have done it in 5 minutes.
Oh
yeah, go ahead. And then she
does.
Well, okay, that's not harsh. That's truth.
Okay.
Okay, so give us an idea what goes on here.
Well, credits roll as Penny gets dressed up to go out while Elby works on his computer. She comes out looking stunning, but he barely looks up from the book that he's writing. They argue about things, and eventually they leave for the show. Elby is judgmental about Mark the neighbor, not painting his house when Elby's own house needs a lot of work. And she complains that he's not a real man. Mark, the neighbor, is kind of creepy, and Elby is kind of an ass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Well, they eventually go to the show and return home with plans for a night without the kids. And at this point,
I'm hoping Albie dies quickly, but I don't think that's actually going to happen.
He noted that here, yeah, but I didn't think so. I was, and obviously they're the two main characters. They haven't fully developed yet. So
okay, I'm going to stop right here and say this movie suffers from Hollywood syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
The people who wrote this movie, the people who acted in this movie, the people that directed in this movie are obsessed with Hollywood. The main character is a screenwriter, a script writer,
yeah,
and everything in this movie revolves around how somebody like that would be. Stereotypical, maybe? But, yeah. He's, Mark, the neighbor, he's out there, he's doing his yard, he's working, but he's clearly not a Hollywood elite.
Right.
And Albie doesn't like that. Albie doesn't do any work on his own house. He's one of those people that puts it off until his wife hires somebody to do it. The wife, I don't know that she works or does anything, but she sure is.
There's nothing mentioned.
Naggy here.
She is, yeah.
But anyway, okay, so anyway.
Well, you mentioned the flat tire that they have on the way home, and he's kind of useless about it, and, she hops in and takes care of it right away. Well, they get home. They're both kind of unhappy and grumpy, and problem is they immediately notice someone's in their house. And they knock, and the guy opens the door, and there's a strange woman there, too. And these folks seem a bit confused, say the man to the woman inside.
The man and the woman never get named either.
Yeah. I mean, but they are, absolutely sure that it's their house. And, well, they run outside to Mark, the neighbor, who runs away from them. So Elby calls the police, but they just kind of put him on hold. And then the police call the man inside the house, who says that everything is fine, and so the police won't come. And then the guy pulls out a gun and his own badge. He's a cop, and he runs them off. Well, they're kind of like, okay, what do we do now? Well, Penny wants to go see a neighbor who might help. Elby doesn't like this neighbor. Yeah. Kimmy lets them in, and she's Penny's sister. And a note that we had here, we're pretty sure they mentioned at 11 o'clock. And they're going on about how late that is. Everybody's making a big deal about how late that is, which kind of seemed odd. Well, Kimmy, she's kind of weird, and she refuses to let them stay the night. Well, okay. So on the way back home, Penny and Elby argue about what to do next. Elby picks up an axe. Penny freaks out that he would have a weapon. You're not taking that in there.
Hollywood.
Yeah. Really? Well, he drops it, and they go inside their house, or what might be their house. And the strange man and woman, they're kind of walking around with jerky movements, kind of robotic and acting really weird, and they knock Elby and Penny out without much effort at all.
Well, that's probably as far as we should go right now.
We probably should.
You know what, though? If there's somebody in my house when I get home and there's an axe in the front yard, I'm going to go in with that axe.
Yeah, but you're not as liberal as these people were. I think a Penny especially, Ultra looking
It's an axe, it's a weapon.
I can't do that.
Yes, and that's this Hollywood syndrome again. I
A
think
little
most
bit.
people would not be in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Surely they have some friends that could come over and help.
It seems like it.
Albie doesn't like friends.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
I did not find anybody's actions really believable here. But okay, anyway, this is certainly a Los Angeles film. They have chickens in the backyard, which, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, people raise chickens.
All right, and they're totally inept at pretty much everything they do. Both the main characters act like they've never seen a weapon before. I'm not sure what the point of making Albie such an unlikable ass from the first scene was all about. This is intentional. This is not just my opinion. I didn't like the guy in Freddy's, but I think I was supposed to.
Yes.
Albie, he's just a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Penny seems fine, but there's clearly something not right with him. As the film progresses, it doesn't really change much. I never did like him. He didn't come around.
And as far as, these people not being believable, I think they're believable. I think a lot of it is just they're very different from our neighborhood and the way we think and the way we act and the way people in our state act. And, this is a California, it's a different way of life for these people. And, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the music is good. The camera work is well done as well. The acting is fine. I didn't like the characters, but I don't think we were supposed to. Some of the characters, though, spoke in weird robotic ways, but that's explained at the end. So
It is.
In the beginning, I made a note about how weird some of the people were acting, and I didn't like the acting, but I'll take that back. That made sense later.
We do figure out why. Yeah. At first we thought, oh, that's awful, but no, there's a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the only problem here is the main character is so completely unlikable. I wanted him to die from like the first scene.
Okay, I wasn't as hung up on that.
All right. What's next?
Next up is Bloodthirst. And as you might guess, that's kind of vampire-y.
Directed by Michael Sue. Written by Massimiliano. I like that name.
It's a hard name to say, but it's cool. Massimiliano.
Yes. Massimiliano Cerci and Adrian Milnes. Stars Costas Mandylor, Tara Reid, Robert Lasardo, and Bishop Stevens.
So, recognizable faces.
Yes. And hour and 28 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
This was an ambitious project with a large cast. Besides the recognizable faces of the main people, there's a lot of people in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world it's set in is interesting with a script that moves pretty well. The effects are kind of on the minimal side, but they used them really effectively. Our only real criticism was they used a modulated sound mix on some of the vampires' dialogue, and it made them hard to understand.
There were two characters in particular, the vampire queen and one of the women vampires who'd spoken a German accent. I had a hard time with.
Yeah.
The male vampires were all fine.
Yeah, but they were, speaking with an accent and modulated, and at times we would, what was that? Oh, that's what she said. Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can work through it.
Yeah, you can work through it. But overall, it was entertaining and certainly worth a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we are told the two vampire factions have taken over the world, and they've warred to the point of extinction.
So it's futuristic, slightly apocalyptic.
As credits roll, we watch a pair of farmers attacked by a pack of vampires led by the Vampire Master, Robert Lasardo.
Uh-huh.
He's in everything, isn't he?
Oh, he's in a lot of stuff. He works. He stays busy.
They drink the woman, but turn the man. A couple of farmhands hide inside the barn and witness the whole thing, but they don't live long. A while later, a man in a cowboy hat and a gas mask arrives at the farm. Why? Because the gas mask looks cool.
It did.
And finds the farmer's wife dead. Charlie sneaks in and says the dead woman is his mother and he's been hiding. The stranger is John Shepard. They team up and hit the road. Well, the vampire gang comes upon a house full of hiding people, and the vampire master finds them all. One woman tries to use a cross, but the master just breaks it in half. No crosses here.
No, and yet there's the next scene.
John and Charlie run into an old woman who has killed a few vampires. She gives John a crucifix, which is odd considering we just saw that they don't really work.
Yeah, I guess, it's a matter of faith and is a strong crucifix, I guess, versus
Yeah.
a weaker one. Yeah,
Well,
a little inconsistent there. Yeah.
well, that's kind of a historical thing. I mean, I've seen vampire movies with Jews with the Star of David scare away vampires and other holy symbols, depending on who you are and what you believe.
And I think it was Fright Night too, where Roddy McDowall's character, he was holding up a cross and it wasn't working, and the vampire was laughing at him and said, "You got to have faith for that to work."
Yeah.
And then he finds his faith, and it does work.
Yeah, I think that's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
The vampire queen walks through town with her entourage, and she demands that they respect her. They then run into the master and his group, and together they feast on the humans caught earlier. But then there's this Nosferatu-looking guy who runs the other vampire faction. There's a battle that's been brewing for centuries, and all the sides are recruiting.
Did I say Malcolm McDowell? I meant Roddy McDowell.
I don't know. I think you said it right.
Okay.
The Fright Night guy.
But anyway, we're talking about this movie.
Well,
So the Nosferatu, he was cool, but I didn't feel like he did enough.
they didn't do anything with him. I
Yeah.
think he's waiting for the sequel.
Saving him for the sequel.
yeah. Yeah, okay. I
Charlie
think
and
we should
John
probably
and-
stop there.
Yeah.
There's two vampire factions, and there's some human hunters. So there we go.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned already
Lots of victims.
the voice modulation on some of the vampires made them hard to understand, but we can piece together what they said. It's not a deal breaker. It's a low-budget indie kind of film with decent special effects. The cast here is very large, and the overall acting is pretty good for a film of this type. The story and the world are also interesting. Clearly they put some thought into the faction thing. A lot was made of the vampire factions, but the one side was led by that Nosferatu character who was kind of hands-off. He shows up a couple of times standing in a cave giving orders. And he didn't really do anything, and it kind of paid off for him in the end of the story.
It worked out for him, yeah.
But the final shot says coming soon, Bloodthirst 2. So, yeah, getting him might be the plan for next time.
And that would make sense. I mean, because if they'd killed off all the factions, what would be, not much for the humans to fight next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got an email from the producer. He mentioned that they had a lot of trouble with COVID. This was filmed during the COVID times, and that caused a lot of issues with this.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of COVID movies, I really couldn't tell. I had not noticed that.
Some COVID movies are clearly, you can tell where they've done.
People phoning it in. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes literally, or yeah.
No, this one
I couldn't tell.
It seemed good. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Which takes us to our next film, Beyond the Gates of Hell. Technically, it finished in 2022. I think it just came out, though. Written and directed by Justin Ferguson.
Dustin.
What'd I say?
Justin.
Oops.
Dustin
Ferguson.
Uh-huh.
Stars Tracy Burr, Eric Larson, and Brink Stevens. 55 minutes. So it's kind of short.
So this is kind of our short for the week. We'll
You
say
could
that.
call it that really long short.
Yeah, really long short.
Spoiler free. It's made in an old grindhouse movie style, which includes previews of coming attractions. So yeah, Kevin's like, we looked on IMDb and it was like 42 minutes long, but the DVD says it's 55 minutes long. I think it was these coming attractions is what makes the difference there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, the grainy effect enhances the mood and smooths over some of the imperfections. It's clearly a low-budget indie, but it's a thumbs up overall, and we liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of times, a movie that looks like this, we would pick to death, but I think the way they do the low, grainy, grindhouse look really works here and saves it.
Yeah,
it makes the whole thing look like, just an old movie, and it works well here.
Yes.
All right, so tell us about it.
Well, first we have coming attractions. We watch some guys in a hazmat suit unleash a horde of zombie skeletons upon the world. Yes, it's a trailer for a new zombie film, and it looked both awesome and garbage at the same time. Zombie Blast Fighter. And this followed by a trailer for a new demon possession film, Don't Eat My Flesh. Now, we do assume that these are just spoof grindhouse mood previews and not real ones, because these seemed especially over the top as far as
over the top bad.
Badness.
They look like
so bad they were comical bad.
They might be real. We don't know,
but they could be real. Yeah.
Let's assume that they're not.
Yeah. Well, then a woman wakes up. We're in the movie now. Looks for Paul in the dark. She doesn't find him, but she finds something, and credits roll. Well, Cheryl leads Katrina and Ian through their house before handing over the keys. This is one of the few houses in the area with a basement. Cheryl warns them about the history of the place. Ian knew about it, but Katrina didn't. Back in 81, a couple lived there, and some local people burned him alive in the basement thinking he was a Satanist. And then just a year ago, a girl was killed there. Now, some of the locals swear this place was built on top of the gates of hell.
Gates of hell.
It's right in the title. Cheryl offers them a big profit to sell back to her so she can just demolish the place. But they decide to stay. Katrina asks about the headstones out in the backyard, which are kind of weird.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, nothing to worry about. Well, Ian takes a shower, but it doesn't work. The water hasn't been turned on. And suddenly a strange woman enters the bathroom. She's naked in the shower. Hi. Hello. She says she's Jennifer, the housekeeper.
Awkward.
Awkward. Heather, Katrina's daughter, stops by and wanders down to the basement, and something gets her.
And we'll stop there.
Yeah.
So it's
And
haunted house, sort of.
And those basement stairs.
Well, okay.
That was
Yeah, I
something.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, massive.
It looks like it was filmed on a subway or something. These are huge stairs.
An impressive house.
Well, the DVD cover mentions something about Lucio Fulci. So Kevin predicted someone's going to lose an eye in this. Hey.
And sure enough.
He nailed it.
Yeah. That's one of his trademarks, it seems like.
Well, it's all done in a 70s grainy grindhouse style. This choice and the coming attractions at the beginning work really well. It's obviously low budget, but instead of trying to be something else, they've leaned into it and made the grittiness a feature. Some of the dialogue and acting is good, while others not so much. But still, if you miss the old drive-in films, this will bring you right back there. The soundtrack is also perfect for this kind of film. It's very 70s. I liked it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Okay, very cool. Now, this next one, The Wheel of Heaven, 2023. This is weird.
It's weird, and it's actually my favorite of the week.
Directed by Joe Baden, written by him and also Jason Kruppa, stars Callie Russell, Vincent Stalba, and Jeff Pearson. Hour and 45 minutes, so it's kind of a long one. You really need to watch the trailer for this one. There's a trailer in the show notes.
Uh-huh.
Spoiler-free, there's a vague thread of an overall story buried in here.
There is.
The trick is untangling it as you watch. It's a movie with episodes of TV shows and commercials inside it, done in layers, with behind-the-scenes and outtake footage mixed right in. You'd be watching something and suddenly the director comes on and explains something.
Or they'll go to the table reading where they're sitting there before they started the filming of the movie, talking about the movie they're going to film.
Or you'll just stop and get a commercial.
Yeah.
If it all sounds kind of confusing, it is. But it's funny and weird and delightful with some horror elements. This is not a slasher film. It's not really... It's
It's certainly got horror
horror
elements.
adjacent for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so give us a little hint what we're talking about here.
Well, we open with a title talking about a miniseries. Then we go straight to an interview.
Which at this point we're like, did we hit
make
the
a mistake?
commentary track?
Yeah. Well, and it is like a DVD special feature commentary track where the director is explaining the whole thing. He says it's like binging on an old TV show with ads and such, like a late night feature. And he mentions inspiration from Kentucky Fried Movie, which is along these lines, where it's got commercials, spoof commercials mixed in. Eventually, we do get to the start of the story. And we watch the destruction of the age of the dinosaurs. It's all realistic and believable.
Well, no, it's puppets and stop motion.
Okay, all right. And then we cut to The Blood of the Dinosaurs, which is a prologue to the story that we previously reviewed because that was a standalone short.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that segment here because we did already do a full review on it. There is a link in the show notes to take you to The Blood of the Dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. And then we cut to the Jason Johnson Experiment, a 3-minute show on late-night public access TV. He gives birth, and then it's over.
Man, I miss public access TV.
Yeah.
We used to have this guy who sat around with his Admiral Akbar head on, with just a fish head.
Yeah?
And he would talk for like a half an hour in that mask.
Wow.
I don't remember what he said, but I remember that mask. It was just horrible.
We never really had the late-night access where I lived.
Channel 3, I believe.
Yeah, I never saw it. I heard about it, but yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, back to this story.
Well, we next begin with the director describing how the film should start as the film starts. Margaret Korn introduces herself as an artist, And she shows us some pretty awful drawings and cut-out paper dioramas, but she is really passionate about them. She talks about one that looks like a spaceship. And she talks about imagining herself as the captain of the spaceship, and then suddenly we cut to a Star Trek-like bridge. And Captain Korn, same actress, is being attacked by Dr. Universe, who threatens her with threats. And she gives a super dramatic speech until her grandmother phones, and this leads to a song.
And this all makes pretty much no sense at all at this point.
It's just, yeah. Well, then we cut to a store where a woman, also played by the same actress as the Corns, buys a choose-your-own-adventure book, and they negotiate the price down to 1 cent.
Worth every penny.
Yeah. This takes us back to the studio, where we get a script being table read by the cast before the filming started, and then credits roll.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. What are we, like a half hour in? I don't know.
Should I just continue?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then we go to episode 1, The Reflection in the Mirror. We open in a black and white world. A woman's car breaks down. Again, same actress. And we see, she sees a full-color Santa out her window. And we zoom in, and we see that this is just Marge, the woman that bought the Choose Your Own Adventure book, doing the Choose Your Own Adventure. And she's imagining herself in there. So we return to the adventure story where Marge runs from a strange person in a raincoat. That's all for chapter 1. And then we get a commercial for Skateboard Attorney. And the weirdness continues for almost another hour as various things we've seen before start to tie together. And we're not going to spoil it more than that.
I didn't write more than that because I didn't know that I was understanding what was going on in all the cases.
Well, it would just be, writing more about random things.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah.
All right, well, public access TV. It was generally stupid and terrible, but after watching this, I kind of miss it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I noticed, there were several clips from that silent movie Vampire from 1932 embedded inside. Did you catch that?
I did not at the time.
I think it shows up like twice, 2 little brief half-second clips.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's in there.
Yeah.
There's a link to Vampire Review if you want to read about that.
Vampire
with a Y, yes.
Uh-huh.
It's several off-the-wall short films that are slightly interconnected mostly. It hops around a lot, and there's a ridiculous amount of silly bits, parodies, and outright nonsense. It is all ridiculous and fast-paced and a lot of fun. There wasn't really a clear story involved, other than the vague choose-your-own-adventure book, and there are even segments where the actors say they didn't understand the ending or even what the film is about. If the actors don't know...
But then it's the actors playing themselves, too, so you can't believe what they say.
If you like weird, non-sequitur, random silliness that's really well done, this one is for you. So how do I order that CD for the best of Elvis Presley?
Oh, yeah. That was one of the... It's a woman dressed as Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley is her.
Yes.
Yeah. She's got...
You can imagine what she looks like.
Yeah, gigantic breast with a hairy chest, on a low-cut Elvis weight jumpsuit. And she's, gone full Elvis. And then one of the commercials is for, the best of Elvis Presley. Yeah.
I totally am going to write down that number for that skateboard attorney in case I, hit somebody on my skateboard.
Uh-huh. Yeah, totally. Yeah. But anyway, I was impressed with the actress who played the multiple roles. And there's other people that play multiple roles.
You see many people doing many things, yes.
Yeah. Overall, my favorite.
All right. Exorcist Believer 2023, another one that's gotten a lot of ads and hype.
So much hype. I was so looking forward to this because it's so hyped. And...
You knew it was going to be crap before we started.
I suspected. I was hopeful.
Well, the trailer does nothing for this one. The trailer doesn't even look good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to, but it wasn't great.
No.
Directed by David Gordon Green, written by Peter Sattler, David Gordon Green, and Scott Teems, stars Leslie Odom Jr. and Ellen Bernstein and a bunch of other people.
Burstyn.
I think
it's Ellen Burstyn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing names today. Hour and 51 minutes, trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, what happens?
This was okay in most ways.
It was fine.
It was fine. It was disappointing. The cast and the direction are skillful. The special effects were impressive. It's just that the first Exorcist movie was original and shocking, and this one isn't. It's just like a modern upgrade of more of the same. There's 2 girls this time instead of 1. wasn't really much as far as surprises or anything new.
Every exorcism movie you ever seen is based on The Exorcist in some way. Because
so is this.
There's this ritual that Catholics do. It's the exorcism. We've seen it once. It was done really, really well that first time. And all the exorcism movies, I don't mean just Exorcist series, I mean anything, is kind of based on that.
Yeah.
They're never ever gonna top The Exorcist as far as exorcism movies.
And they tried to, and yeah. It was meh.
Adding two girls does not make it twice as good.
No, it didn't.
Well, we begin in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where Seren shops at the market. After that, she goes to a spiritual healer who blesses her baby. We see that she's very pregnant. Victor is there. He's her husband. He doesn't believe in the local blessings. Suddenly, there's a massive earthquake, and Seren's hotel collapses on top of her. Victor takes her to a doctor, but she's very badly hurt. The doctor says he can save either her or the baby, and it's up to Victor to choose. Well, then we cut to Percy, Georgia, quite a few years later, where Angela digs through her dead mother's photos as her father, Victor, gets ready for school. Okay, we know how that turned out.
Yep.
Anne, the naggy neighbor lady, yells at Victor for leaving the trash on the curb. She seems like fun.
Yeah.
Victor goes to
She does redeem herself later.
It works out, yeah.
But our first impression of her is not good.
Yeah.
Victor
then goes to the gym and then to work, taking family photos. He's still a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
After school, Angela and her friend Catherine go into the woods to do a ritual to talk to spirits, as kids do.
Yeah.
When Victor gets home late, Angela's not there. Victor gets together with Catherine's parents to search the woods, and Victor finds a shoe. The police then check the surveillance cameras in town and follow them as far as they can, but they don't know much. Well, there's a homeless encampment nearby. That doesn't come up with anything either.
Yeah, they investigate that, interview some of the homeless folks, and yeah, there's no trace of these girls.
Victor goes home after a long day of searching and finds that Stuart, his friend, has invited Dr. Hive. And autocorrect kept wanting to correct that to Beehive.
Of course, yeah.
She's some kind of spiritualist to bless the house again. Victor just has not got time for this crap and throws everybody out.
Yeah, it's been days now, and yeah, he's at the end of his rope. Yeah.
Elsewhere, a farmer and his son deal with a sick cow, and the farmer's son finds the two girls hiding in his barn. At the hospital, Angela thinks she's been gone for a few hours, but it's been 3 days. She doesn't remember anything, but her feet are all messed up. Same with Catherine. They do a bunch of tests, and neither girl shows any sign of assault. We start seeing some weird stuff around Angela.
Mm-hmm. Neither one acts quite right.
In the morning, Angela has wet the bed, which is not normal for her because she's like 16 or so. Angela attacks Victor and then goes into a seizure. Her fingers and toenails are all torn up, which no one can explain. Catherine and her family then go to church like they always do, and Catherine isn't looking super healthy either. When communion time rolls around, Catherine has snuck out. During the rest of the sermon, Catherine comes back in, and she's clearly not quite right.
Yeah, there's a bit of a scene there.
Leading to exorcism stuff.
Yeah, we should probably stop there. Yeah.
Well, it's a modern continuation of the original demon possession film.
And they brought back, and if you have seen the original, you remember that Regan's mother went through all this, and she is here.
She's here as a sort of a consultant.
That's Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah,
she's back.
Well, it's well acted and well written. It takes many of the tropes and brings them back in new ways. Still, the first film was shocking and original. This is what you would call, technically, the technical term is more of the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's nothing here that shocked either of us. This time there are two of them, but that doesn't add much.
Yeah.
The music is sort of reminiscent of the theme of the original, but it's different enough that it's not as effective.
Not nearly. No.
There's some piano music that kind of, it's not the same.
Enough where you can recognize, hey, that's the original theme, and they're not really doing anything
but it's not really.
Yeah.
The special effects are fine. I mean, there's not a huge amount of special effects in this movie, just like there weren't in the, well, I guess there were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of CGI, at least.
Yeah, practical effects.
Well, this time, they make it clear that the devil isn't only afraid of Catholic priests. Most every culture has some kind of an exorcism ritual, and they all can work. For a long time, they had the Christian guy there. They had the weird beehive lady. Mm-hmm. They had...
And the neighbor, she was kind of
And the neighbor, she was
new
kind of,
agey.
yeah. And they were all working on it, and it was doing something. But then the Catholic priest shows up. They're like, "Oh, thank God, he's here. We can do it right now."
Oh, and that doesn't go well
kind
at
of
all.
derailed.
Yeah, that goes
they were
off the
doing
rails
real
quick.
good with the everybody is right, but then all of a sudden it was all about the Catholic. Fortunately, that didn't work out so well either. But you can tell that they lost that message somewhere in there.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, overall it was fine.
It was okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't anticipate it. I wouldn't absolutely recommend it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just more of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this week. If you want to read about It's Alive, the killer baby movie from 1974, you can check that out over at horrorbulletin.com.
That was a good one. I will say that.
Yeah.
I will say that about it.
I wonder if It's Alive actually went out on the newsletter, because it's not here on this,
It's not
is
here
it?
in the newsletter, is it? We might have had a technical glitch
We may have
there.
to put that one out next week.
Yeah.
I'll have to check on that. Anyways, stop in over at horrorguys.com to read the full spoilery reviews if you want to. Otherwise, next week we will have some other good stuff.
And if you get a chance to see the Wheel of Heaven, do so.
Yes.
Because
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, that's
Okay, you like that the best. This week,
Yeah.
I think I liked Five Nights at Freddy's, Exorcist Believer, The Hive, Bloodthirst, Beyond the Gates of Hell, The Wheel of Heaven. I'm going to go with Beyond the Gates of Hell.
Okay.
I like that better than Five Nights at Freddy's or Exorcist Believer.
Well, actually, those two, the big, big, huge movies are my least favorites of the week.
This time, yes, I would have to agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we're going to have more stuff. I know The Nun
are.
2 is going to be on there next week.
Ooh.
We're going to start watching Hostel films.
Uh-huh.
Just one next week, but we'll get to the others.
There's 3 of them.
And a couple of oldies,
Okay.
at least. Well, I'm Brian,
And I'm Kevin.
and we'll see you next week.
See ya.